So glad that Irene was able to come here and tell about her unique and innovative program for teaching children to read. And here she is.
Thank you. Okay, so welcome. I'm Irene Daria, and I'm a developmental psychologist and specialize in teaching children how to read. I'm also the author of Steps to Reading, a workbook for kids and a guidebook for parents and teachers that provides step-by-step instructions for how to teach children to read. Teaching a child how to read is very easy and fun, and I think it's wonderful that you're here today to learn how to do so. I firmly believe that when time and circumstances permit, all parents should teach their children how to read, at least a little bit at home. So let's start with the question of why. Why should I teach my child to read? Why not just leave it up to my child's school? The first answer to that question is because it's a lovely activity to share. Welcome. To share together. It's fun and rewarding for both you and the child. And the second answer to that question is because sometimes children will not learn how to read well in school. And research has shown that the biggest stumbling block to children learning how to read well in school is that many schools are light on phonics, which teaches children how to sound out words, or, as we were discussing, schools often move too quickly through their phonics curriculum, and kids just need a little bit more practice getting those rules down. Some schools that do teach phonics also teach it in sort of a helter-skelter way, on an as-needed basis, as opposed to in a systematic way. And some schools do a great job. I'm not saying that this is all because schools aren't teaching phonics, but often if kids are struggling, that is the main reason, because they either have not learned phonics in school or the school has moved too quickly through those phonetic basics. So learning phonics in a systematic way is imperative to becoming a good reader and speller. And that's why systematic phonics is the main focus of what I and all reading specialists teach children. A systematic progression of phonics lessons is also the focus of my book, and it's what you'll be learning about today. Teaching your child how to read in the way I'm going to show you today will ensure that your child will thrive as a reader in school no matter what reading curriculum is being used. Okay, so how do you teach a child to read? I'm sure all of you know that the first step is learning your letter sounds. What you may not realize, it's important for you to come right out and explain to the child that the letters of the alphabet stands for sounds that we make when we speak. Often adults will say something like this to a child. This is the letter A. A says ah. And some kids accept this and they're fine with it. And other kids are like, what? That letter doesn't make any sound. That's something written on a piece of paper. What are you talking about? And that confusion will actually hinder their ability to learn. Kids often, you may have seen, don't come right out and ask you questions. They sometimes just tune out. And that sometimes happens in preschools when preschools are teaching the letter sound. So come right out and explain to the child. Letters stand for sounds that we make when we speak. For example, this letter A stands for the sound ah. Okay. A few other tips on teaching the sounds that letters make. Teach capital and lowercase letters at the same time. Sometimes kids are taught just the uppercase letters, but reading consists mostly of lowercase letters. So teach them at the same time. And don't teach your child A says ah as in apple, or T says T as in train, because I've had kids come to me and, for example, if I show them the word cat and ask them to read it, they will actually say k, cat, a, apple, t, train. They memorize it as a whole unit. So just say, C says k, A says a, T says t, as opposed to attaching the word to it. If your kids are just learning their letter sounds, these are great. I don't have anything to do with these DVDs, but when people come to me for tutoring, I tell them, go buy them. It'll save you the cost of months of tutoring, and then come back when your child knows their letter sounds. They're both from a company called Leapfrog. This first one is called Letter Factory Video, and both of them are actually movies. They're not interactive games, they're movies. This first one, the plot is that baby letters are in a factory. They've just been born, and they're learning the sounds that they make. So you have baby A's in a room, and a ghost comes in and scares them, and they all go, ah! And that's the sound that A makes. So effective. Kids love it, and they really, really, really learn from it. The second video, also from Leapfrog, it's called Talking Words Factory, and this introduces the idea that letters form words. But the really important one for learning letters is the first one. Okay, so once children know their letter sounds, they will be able to start learning how to read. So we start with words that have short A in them. Those are words like bat, can, or rag. I'm going to use the term short vowel with you because I think that you all know what it means. Don't use that term with your children. They often find short and long very confusing. And just when the words that they're learning to read at this point all have the short vowels in them. So at this point, you just have to tell them A says a, I says I, etc. You want to make sure the sound of short A is rock solid for the child as you go forward. And I'm going to show you that website that we were discussing before. This is a great website. It's free, which is amazing. It's called starfall.com. Can you all see it? This is the main page, what it looks like. Here, this is what's free. This, I believe you have to pay for this additional stuff. But if you go up here and click, it says ABCs. I'm crossing my fingers. There we go. Okay. So this is actually also great for learning letter sounds in general. But here, I always use it for the A sound. So I won't play this whole thing, but you'll get an idea of how cute this is.
A.
So it introduces the letter A.
A.
And then the child has to click wherever the stars sparkle, and you'll hear the A sound.
Ah.
Oh.
You like it? Come here. Hey, come here. Help me out. You too. Come here. Come
Apple.
on. Apple. So here, click. Go ahead. Click on here. Just put your finger and press.
Ah. Apple.
Apple.
Good. Okay. Okay, your turn. Press here.
Ah. Apples.
Want to press again? Come on. We take turns. I love having assistants. Oh, where'd it go? Hold on, I think it moved. Okay.
Ah.
Oh.
Apples. Oh, now watch this. Okay, come on, your turn. Go ahead. Quick. Now watch the
Ah.
alligator.
Alligator. Ah.
Pretty cute, huh? Okay, your turn. We're not going to do the whole thing, but... Oops, okay, go ahead.
Ah.
Okay, now this is my absolute favorite. Go ahead, click, you press. Oops, hold on. Go ahead. Uh-oh. Here, go ahead.
Ah. Astronaut.
Watch this, go ahead. love it. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward through this a little bit. Thank you for your help.
Click and drag the letters to the correct basket.
Each of the letters
Capital
ends with a game that they can play.
Lowercase
A.
So this one, they have to drag the capital letters to the right basket. So, and it uses all their senses, as you can see. They're touching, they're hearing. They love it. So, I highly, highly recommend it.
Goodbye.
So again, it's great for all letter sounds. I use them. I use it especially for the vowels. And then, so each of these has its own little, I don't know what to call it, movie with a game at the end that applies to the letter. And down here are songs about each of the vowels. So here's a song about A. Tell me what you think about this, okay? Here, press. Go ahead.
Listen to the short A sound. The in cat, the in a rat. Make the short A sound.
You will find yourself
Now I want to hear
singing
you
the
sing it.
songs. My kids were like, "Ma."
Listen to the short A sound.
But again, also very effective.
The in cat, the in a rat. Make the short A sound.
Okay, just we have a
Goodbye.
lot to cover, so I'm going to give you just a very brief, because I know in your case you have an older child that you're working with. If you click on, cute, huh? I know. If you click here on Learn to Read, it has phonetic games, stories, and movies. You can sort of explore this at home, but I'll show you one little one. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're here, and I have a wonderful
Listen to the
assistant.
short A sound. Short A makes this kind of sound.
Okay, so
Zach.
if go ahead, click, press.
Oh, okay. They've been all day. She said
One more time.
She said they don't have as many supplies, and they're not out yet.
Okay, so here there are words for the. Let me just explain to all the grown-ups what to do. There are words for the child to read. Don't let them click on the word because it reads it for them. But they can read the stories, and if they click on Zach, he does stuff. So the stories are animated. This is the very earliest, but all of these stories progress through all the other phonics rules. So you can use them for later phonics rules as well if you're working with an older child. So really, I think it's the best website out there for supporting teaching reading. And if, at home, if you explore the menu a little bit more, you'll see it progressively gives you more for older children. Okay, thank you. We'll come back again, okay? Okay, so now they know the sound that short A makes. Now they know the sound that short A makes. And you can move on to teaching words that have short A in them. So what we do basically, you can take a look at the handouts that I gave you. These are Xeroxes from the workbook, but I'm just using this as an example of what systematic phonics looks like. You introduce the idea first that separate letters, when they're apart from each other, make separate sounds. So A says A, T says K. The next page, you introduce the idea that when letters are side by side, they make a word. So A and T, you can come on in, have a seat. When A and T are side by side, they make the word at. A board game. The book is full of games that you can play with your kids to reinforce what you're teaching. But this game, as an example, reinforces that A and T make the word at. I have these little circles that I use as markers, or this little fish, whatever's, or a little eraser, anything that makes it fun for the child. Each of you gets a marker and you put it on start. Then you take turns rolling a die. So this was 5. You move forward 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then read what's in the circle. So you would say at, t, and stop. And then the next person rolls the die, and you take turns going along the board reading like that. So this is a really fun way of reinforcing that A says T says t. Together they make the word at. Then, so you can see how everything is beginning already to build on what came before. Next, you're going to make words that end in at. On this page, you, the adults, do the writing so the child can see the words being formed. There's a box at the bottom that tells you what letters to write in. So here you would write B and explain to the child this word was at. We put a B in front of it, and now the word is bat. You put a C here, now the word is cat. Put an H here, now the word is hat, etc. So the next page again continues to build. You ask the child, what's this letter? What's this letter sound? B. Then if the child is ready and willing and able, they should do the writing now, because writing really helps reinforce learning to read, the writing of the words. Sometimes kids don't want to or aren't ready. The goal is to teach them how to read. That's okay. But if the child is ready to do it, it's better if the child does the writing. So sound out B, write the letter B here, and then write out and read the whole word here. So b, bat, bat. Keeps going, read the word, write the word, circle the word that goes with the picture. Again, anything that makes it fun for the child is a-okay. Some kids want to color in the pictures that go with the word. That's great. Some kids decorate the whole page. That's fine. Move slowly. It's better to do a little bit at a time than 5 pages in one sitting, because that little bit of work, if you do 5 minutes a day, it's more effective than 20 minutes every 4th day, because that little bit of work will actually wire the brain more for reading. It's like anything else. If you learn something in math and you don't use it, when you come back to it, it's like, what was that? Same with reading. So, whatever the child wants to do with the page, it's their page. It's great that they enjoy it. I made it look like a coloring book on purpose. And then this page, they circle the letters that make up the word and then write the word. And again, if they want to color the picture, they can. And then they get a bingo game. All of this now is teaching words that end in AT still. So I don't know if you remember or know how to play bingo, but these are sort of playing cards. You cut these out and stack them one on top of the other face up. Each of you gets a board with different words written on it, and then the child should read from the stack of words that you've made. They should read from the top. So let's say the first word is bat. Each of you looks for the word bat on your board and cover it with a penny. I really recommend using pennies and letting the child keep the pennies when he or she wins, because they love that. It's so motivational. You'd be amazed. So I also, kids don't tell, but I also recommend stacking the deck a little bit so that the kids can win. Not all the time, but it's no fun if the grown-up's winning all the time. So honestly, I stack it a little bit so that there's that excitement about winning and getting to keep the pennies. So the way you win is you cover 3 words in a row, either this way, this way, this way, or this way. Sometimes kids want to keep playing. I want to cover the whole board, or I want to win again. It's fine, whatever they want to do. Just go ahead and do it. But this they also really love. You ladies missed the beginning, but I was talking about how systematic phonics is important, or a systematic progression of reading. So this is all, how to teach. First we talked about how to teach letter sounds, then how to teach words that end in AT. Now you move on to teaching the word the. So the is part of a group of words that teachers commonly refer to as sight words. A little bit of background about sight words. They come from a list that a man named Edward Dolch made in 1948. He went through a whole bunch of children's books that were popular at the time, and he made a list of the 220 most common words that are not nouns. So at the time it was popular to have kids learn to read by looking at the pictures of what a word was, and these words could not be illustrated, so they were words, pronouns, adjectives, the, he, is, pretty, only, right, things that a picture could not show. And in time, teachers began telling parents that these sight words cannot be, these are words that can't be sounded out, and so need to be memorized on sight. They actually can't, many of them can be sounded out, some can't. There are a whole bunch of versions of this list on the internet. A lot of them are in alphabetical order, so kids are learning the word brown before said, which doesn't make any sense. So the way I put things together is I took the words that, I call them power words, because sight words have sort of become a little fuzzy and confusing, so I call them power words. And they're listed in order of frequency of use in the little books that children will be reading really soon as they progress through the workbooks, and also in frequency of use in most books. The is the most common word in the English language. You see it all the time everywhere. So it's the first. Oh, can I see? Thank you. You made me a picture? Oh, thank you so much. It's beautiful. I love working with kids. Okay, so the. I need to speak quickly, and I couldn't cover everything because we only have an hour, but in the book your child will trace the word the, learn the word the, while they are learning it. When you read to the child at home and you come across the word the in the story you're reading, let them read it. Or if you're reading an article in a magazine or a newspaper, or just have the newspaper around, you can give them the article, have them find the word the, circle it, because they'll be very impressed with how often it comes up, and it helps them learn it quickly. So that was how to learn words that end in AT. Then we did a sight word. Next come words, and you'll see it goes in exactly the same way. That's what I mean by systematic. It becomes familiar to you, it becomes familiar to the child, and everything builds on what came before. So first they learn words that end in AT. Now they learn words that end in AN. Hi. And now they can actually read their first sentences. You guys have a copy of this too, I think, in the handout, this page. But this is really a big deal and very exciting for the child, because they'll actually be able to read sentences like the rat sat, pat the cat, the bat sat, pat the man. It's really a big deal, and I have this little picture of kids jumping for joy. I recommend celebrating for each of these little milestones in whatever way that feels right to you. Like go out for an ice cream, give them a sticker, whatever, because marking each step helps a child feel like they're making progress and makes it fun. So then you're going to progress. There's another sight word. is. Then there's a bingo game that mixes words that end in T and end in N. So you're practicing those two rules together. Then they learn the sight word on. And then this is a really fun game. You have a copy of this also. This is called Silly Sentences. And what you do is you cut these words out. The dark ones are the power words or sight words. The, is, and on. These are all words that end in AT or AN. And just take turns making silly sentences. You know, for example, you know, the bat is on the fat cat. Have the child put those words down and take turns reading each other silly sentences. They laugh a lot. It's fun. It gives them practice with the, is, and on, and words that end in AT and AN. So then you keep going and teach words that have different endings than AT and AN. AM, some words end in G. Wag, yep. Once they learn all those short A words with different endings, they can actually read a book, which is like the biggest milestone in the world for them, and they can't believe it. But they can read. This is a set of books called Bob books. The Bob books in the set are actually in a different order, numbered in a different order than I use them in the Steps to Reading program. So this is book 2, but I recommend reading it first. Sam. And really you have no idea how exciting it is for the child to be able to actually read this. You know, Sam. This is Sam. Sam and cat. So tiny little sentences, you know, very simple. Matt and cat. Sam, Matt, and cat. Cat sat on Sam. Matt sat on Sam. You get the idea? Yeah. They won't make a movie out of it, but it's just, you know, so exciting for kids that they can actually read this. I would read one of these books that day and then save the second one, which they can also read just as well for the next day and make a big deal out of that again. You know, wow, you read your second book. And it's very exciting for them. Then there's another bingo game with all the endings. And then more power words, as and has. They can now read a bigger looking book, which continues to be exciting. This is a set called Primary Phonics. It's available from a company called Educators Publishing Service. A lot of libraries also have these books. But Tab is a cat. You can see the sight word is here. So it's already building. It's the phonics and the sight words being combined in the book. Tab has a pal. Has is a sight word. The is a sight word or power word. The other words they can all sound out. Tab has a pal. The pal is Mac. Mac is a rat. Mac has a cap. Really exciting for a beginning reader, you know, who hasn't really been working very long, to see that he or she can read this. Tab has a nap on the mat. Mac has a nap on Tab. Very cute. The mouse is on the cat. It's just very sweet. So, you know, again, everything's building. The phonics and the sight words. I think it's really important. This is a website called starfall.com. It's free. We did A, so I'll do I just for fun.
I.
And then they click where it's sparkling, and it makes the letter sound, I. They click where it's sparkling again.
Igloo.
Inside the igloo.
Again, they hear I.
I. Iguana.
So it's really fun for them. I got your attention again. Come on, click. The Big Hit is a story for short I.
The big hit wins into the midst. Can you hear short I in it? The big hit wins into the midst. Short I sounds like it.
So it's cute, right? And I mentioned before, it's using all the senses. It's using sound and sight and they're clicking, so they're touching. And then you're going to have them read again. Here's a sight word, the. Tin, they can sound out. Man, they can sound out. Sight word, has, a. Bat, they can sound out. They can read all these stories, which is so exciting for them. And if you click on the Tin Man, go ahead, click. He moves, right? What could be better than that? So it's a great way to, when you get to the point in each of these units where the child, as you progress through it, I tell you which specific book the child can read, and then you can also go on Starfall and read these stories here as well. Starfall, STARFALL.com. So you progress, you move on to words with short I, more sight words. There's a game, a board game where you practice short A and short I words mixed together. So again, that's being reinforced. Then comes short U. I love telling this story, and it's a story you can tell your kids when you teach them, or whoever you're teaching. The very first little girl that I ever taught how to read, we reached the point where she had learned short U, and she came back, and it's good to always reinforce it. So I would always say, what sound does A make? What sound does I make? What sound does you make? And her response to me was, and I said, yes, that's right. So she's forever memorialized now in a cartoon about, so what sound does you make? That's right. What's right? The sound. You says So you teach them short U. They're reading more and more stories. They're working their way through the Bob book set. They're working their way through this set. Then there's a game where you practice the sounds, the A, I, and U sounds. You get to E. Be warned, E, for some reason, when kids reach E, it takes them a little longer to learn it. My theory is this is the 4th phonics rule they're learning. They've already learned a bunch of power words or sight words. They have a lot going on. Maybe it's just a little, they need a little bit of time to consolidate it. Some kids, there isn't that little stall, but it does seem to take them a little bit longer. That's okay. Just hang out with E as long as you need to, play. In each of these units, there's a short, there's an E bingo game. Because it is harder, this is just, with E. It doesn't mix with other vowels at the moment. So play this game a lot. Read the stories with E. Go on Starfall with E. And don't move forward. That's really important. Don't move forward until the E's in place. Yeah, because these short vowels, they're the basis for all the longer words they're going to be sounding out, and they need to break down later on, so you want to make sure that these are really, really, really in place. So as long as it takes, just let them have that time. Now we get to the bed trick. A lot of kids, when they start out reading, You know this trick? When they start out reading, they mix up B and D. And this is a really easy way for them to remember. So take the word bed, make a fist like this. So what you're making basically is the equivalent of a bed. These are like the headboard and the footboard. This is the bed, and this is the top of the bed. If you can see, this hand looks like a B, and this hand looks like a D. So when kids, forget, you have them make, say do the bed trick, make the fist. They can hold the fist in front of the letter, and they'll see that this side, the B, is on the same side as the B, and this, the D, when I say same side, the straight, sticking up part of the letter is on this side. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's another trick. Mixing up the B and D, very common. P also is tricky, but that trick really helps a lot. So the last short vowel that they learn is O. Same thing. We've gotten to the end of the book, so let me sort of show you everything. Even just from this short time, I think will feel very familiar to you. Introduce the sound of short O. Use starfall. I tell people, go to starfall. Use starfall. They'll trace the words here. Again, sound out. Put in the letter. Put in all the letters and read the words. Read the word, write the word, circle or color. In the picture, here, make a line to the picture from the right word. So they're really practicing reading all their short O words with different endings. Again, bingo. This bingo is all with short O words. Another power word. They read more stories. I tell you which books they should read. And then there's a review. There's a game for review that has all the short vowel words for them to read. A board game like we played before with the A and the T. And can read. Really a big deal. They can now read their short vowel words.